Have you ever wondered how your favorite product might get to you faster? Or why certain countries are suddenly building fleets of icebreakers and Arctic ports? The answer lies far north, in a region once considered a frozen wasteland. Today we're going to discover how the Arctic's newly emerging shipping lanes are about to cut distances and costs, and spark unprecedented geopolitical rivalries. Once upon a time, the far north was virtually impassable for much of the year. Thick multi-year sea ice, punishing weather, and remote infrastructure meant very few commercial ships ventured far above the Arctic Circle. But the climate is changing fast. Sea ice cover is retreating. One study even shows the drop in ice in the northern route of the Northwest Passage hit record lows in 2024. As a result, what was once impossible is becoming plausible. Maritime routes that link Asia with Europe via the Arctic are increasingly within reach. Two of the most talked about routes are the Northern Sea Route, or NSR, along Russia's Arctic coast, and the Northwest Passage above Canada. The NSR in particular is being framed as a new waterway, or Arctic Silk Road. The US government's maritime regulator even calls the NSR an emerging choke point in global shipping, thanks to its potential to significantly shorten the Europe-Asia leg. And that's huge. A shorter route means fewer days at sea, less fuel burn, and faster turnaround. For shippers, that's a potential game changer. But this emerging route is not just about economics. It's squarely a geopolitical story. The Arctic isn't empty. The region is claimed, patrolled, and strategized over by powerful actors. The core Arctic states include the members of the Arctic Council: Russia, Canada, the United States, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Iceland. Each one has strategic, economic, and sovereign interests in the north. Russia arguably holds the strongest hand. It claims much of the NSR as within its territorial waters and exclusive economic zone, which gives Moscow significant control over how, when, and who uses that route. Canada, meanwhile, claims the Northwest Passage lies within its internal waters, asserting sovereignty, while others argue it's an international strait. Then there are non-Arctic states positioning themselves in the Arctic game. Most prominently, China, under its Polar Silk Road initiative, has signaled major interest in Arctic shipping and infrastructure. In short, the Arctic is transitioning from cooperation to competition. So, what are the economic implications? Let's look at the winners and losers. On the upside, shorter shipping routes can dramatically reduce both time and fuel costs. One estimate suggests that for the NSR, shipping between Asia and Europe might be cut by 40 days or more compared to going via the Cape of Good Hope. This means existing choke points like the Suez Canal or Panama Canal may face serious competition. If shippers find Arctic paths reliable, global trade routes may reroute accordingly. Local Arctic coastal communities also stand to gain in terms of new ports, infrastructure, and associated industries, shipping logistics, servicing vessels, search and rescue services, and even tourism. But this boom isn't guaranteed. It depends on reliability, seasonality, and massive investment. On the flip side, there are clear risks. The route is still seasonal and unpredictable, especially in the Northwest Passage. Infrastructure is sparse, and draft restrictions and narrow straits hamper large container ships. Some mainstream carriers remain cautious. One recent report noted that despite all the hype, cargo volumes on the NSR remain tiny relative to Suez. Beyond the economics, the environment and local peoples are at the heart of this story. The Arctic ecosystem is incredibly fragile. Increased shipping traffic means a higher risk of oil spills, noise pollution that affects marine mammals, black carbon deposits that speed up ice melt, and invasive species. Meanwhile, indigenous communities, the Inuit in Canada, the Sami in Scandinavia, and others face threats to their traditional ways of life. Increased ship traffic, changing ice patterns, and the disruption of hunting grounds bring both opportunity and risk. For many, the paradox is stark. Climate change is opening the very route that may then accelerate climate change further through increased emissions and industrialization. We end up in a strange loop where the melting of Arctic ice enables new shipping routes, which in turn could exacerbate that very melting. Balancing progress and preservation is crucial. It's a moral consideration as much as a trade one. Looking ahead, How might global trade and power dynamics change? If Arctic routes prove reliable, they could fundamentally reshape supply chains. Think about it. Asia-Europe shipping may increasingly shift north, reducing dependency on traditional choke points and accelerating trade between East and West. This could weaken the strategic significance of current bottlenecks like Suez and Panama, and give Arctic littoral states powerful new leverage. But with that comes the risk of new flashpoints. Military and strategic presence in the region is already increasing. Russia, for example, is building Arctic bases and a massive icebreaker fleet. The US now sees the Arctic as a theater of great power competition. And looking even further into the future, the so-called transpolar sea route, a direct crossing over the top of the Arctic Ocean, is still distant but could be viable by mid-century. The nations that secure the route infrastructure, patrol rights, rescue capability, and commercial first-mover advantage may also gain immense geopolitical leverage. So here's the takeaway. The Arctic isn't just a remote frontier anymore. It's becoming a cornerstone of 21st century trade architecture and global power calculus. To sum up, the Arctic is undergoing a great thaw, opening new shipping superhighways. It's a geopolitical chessboard where Arctic and non-Arctic powers compete for influence. It's an economic gold rush with huge promise and equally huge risks. And it is an environmental crossroads where decisions made now will echo for generations. Ultimately, the Arctic may well become pivotal in the 21st century's landscape of trade and power. The next time you see a container ship loaded with goods or hear of a naval vessel in the far north, remember, the Arctic has grown up and the world is watching. Thanks for joining us on this journey to the top of the world. If you found this look at global trade and geopolitics fascinating, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives. We'd love to have you back. Thanks for watching.